Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really plunging into something that affects all of us, public trust.
That's right. Specifically, what happens when that trust, in our institutions, our officials, gets put to the test.
Especially when you throw in serious allegations of misconduct and just the speed information travels now in the digital age.
Our mission for this deep dive is, well, to unpack some really vivid recent examples. We'll go from local law enforcement drama right up to the national political stage.
And we'll be looking at what our sources tell us about accountability, the complexities of doing official jobs, and the, frankly, surprising power social media has in shaping how you perceive things.
We've gathered quite a bit of material, reporting from News 12 Long Island on, let's say, controversial sheriff's race.
Also an article from Law Enforcement News looking at social media misconduct, the First Amendment angle there.
And various political summaries from Morning Wire, The New Republic, so quite a mix.
Okay, let's jump right in. We'll start locally in Sullivan County, New York. Things really heated up there in the sheriff's race.
Yeah, News 12 called it a new level of controversy. And it all kicked off with this compilation video.
Shared anonymously, right? On Facebook groups, just days before the Republican primary.
Exactly. And the video makes some pretty serious claims. Allegations of misconduct involving a former deputy, Michelle Resnick, and the undersheriff, Eric Chabot.
So what does the video actually show? Or allege it shows?
Well, allegedly, it shows Deputy Resnick smiling, blowing kisses at an inmate, Michael Hiller, during a recorded jailhouse video call.
Okay.
Then there are other clips. The same woman, apparently in plain clothes, looking upset, in an embrace with Undersheriff Chabot in a patrol room.
An embrace.
Yeah, and another time she's in uniform getting into the undersheriff's parked truck.
And there's something about a closet.
Right. The narrative on the video alleges Resnick went into a closet with the inmate, Hiller, for about 20 seconds while she was on duty. But, and this is key, the video of that specific incident isn't shown.
Ah, okay. So it's an allegation tied to the video, but not visually depicted in it.
Correct. And the video basically accuses Chabot of having an intimate relationship with Resnick and then covering up her supposed relationship with the inmate.
How? By letting her resign.
Allegedly, yes. Letting her resign without any investigation or consequences.
Wow. Okay, those are some heavy accusations, especially right before an election. But there's another side to this story, right?
Oh, definitely. Undersheriff Chabot fired back hard. He says the video is completely false.
Calling it false is one thing, but did he explain the clips?
He did. He said it pieces together several historical segments and adds its own narrative. He claims it was altered to make it look like I've been captured alone with her, as though we've had some sort of romantic encounter, which is not what happened.
Okay, so altered and taken out of context is his argument. What about his relationship with Resnick?
He says they have a 30-year friendship. She was hired during COVID, then resigned in March 2023. And importantly, he says she self-reported having feelings for the inmate.
Self-reported feelings.
Yeah.
But did she act on them while employed?
Chabot claims her relationship with the inmate only started after she resigned.
Okay. And the specific clips? The embrace. The truck.
Right. He says the embrace was him consoling her. Apparently, she came in upset in March 2024 to file a complaint because that same inmate, Hiller, had stolen her car.
Stolen her car? Seriously?
Yeah, and apparently her personal firearm was in a lockbox inside. Key was on her key ring. Hiller was later found with the gun and charged.
Okay, that adds a lot of context. And the truck incident.
He says she wasn't feeling well during a shift, so he gave her some over-the-counter medicine. That's why she got in his truck.
And the alleged closet incident that wasn't actually shown?
Chabot explains Hiller was a porter, like a janitor, who had access to a broom closet with cleaning supplies.
Oh.
He says it's very common for a deputy to go into the broom closet with the inmate to supervise them, make sure they're not, getting into trouble with chemicals or anything.
So, standard procedure, according to him.
He says the allegation came up when she resigned, the video was reviewed then, and they found nothing out of order.
And the sheriff, Mike Schiff, what's his take?
He's backing Chabot, calls the whole video an orchestrated political attack timed for the primary, says the clips are grossly taken out of context.
He even called it laughable and totally unacceptable based on the report.
Exactly. So you have these really starkly opposing stories.
Definitely. But even with those explanations, some people aren't satisfied. There are calls for more investigation.
Right. Like this resident, Kyle Conkine, he reshared the video because he saw it being deleted and felt there were a lot of unanswered questions. specifically about an officer and inmate going off camera together.
And News 12 couldn't find the original poster.
Nope. But the sheriff's office does say it's conducting an investigation now.
But the sheriff's challenger, Tim Diamond, he doesn't think enough is being done.
Not at all. He's quoted saying it should be a criminal investigation all day long and feels there's no one doing their job right now with this. He thinks people are tired of being told nothing happened.
And then there's this other layer, a retired lieutenant.
Yeah, Paul Slavic. He came forward claiming his former bosses, presumably Schiff and Chibodi, are under FBI investigation.
For what?
He claims he gave the feds proof of doctored accident reports before he left in 2023. He also claims he was forced to resign.
Okay, but has News 12 confirmed an FBI investigation?
No. They state explicitly they have not been able to confirm if the FBI is actually investigating.
And Djibouti's response to Slavic?
Predictably dismissive, calls him a disgruntled former employee whose claims could not substantiate, calls them wild accusations.
And the county legislature, staying out of it.
Seems so. The chairperson, Nadia Raj, declined to comment on the allegations or any potential county investigation.
So you, the listener, are basically left with this mess. Wildly conflicting stories, anonymous videos, political accusations, potential FBI involvement.
Yeah.
How do you even start to figure out what's real?
It's incredibly difficult, and it really highlights how this kind of information warfare, because that's really what it can be, just poisons the well of public confidence, especially in local law enforcement.
And the thing is, this Sullivan County situation, as intense as it is, isn't unique, is it? These issues echo much wider problems.
Absolutely. When you zoom out, you see similar patterns, particularly with social media and law enforcement accountability across the country, even internationally.
Our sources mentioned social media scandals involving police are on the rise and widespread.
Yes. Places like Antioch, California, Philadelphia, Torrance, California, Wichita, Kansas, even London. It's happening everywhere.
And what kind of stuff are we talking about?
Often it's officers texting or posting offensive language or memes, sometimes explicitly racist or sexist content.
Which points to a deeper problem than just one officer's bad judgment, right?
Exactly. The sources suggest it often signals an underlying issue within the organizational culture, maybe a lack of accountability or poor institutional control by command staff.
And this us versus them mentality is mentioned.
Yes, that scene is really corrosive. Where officers develop this attitude, it's damaging to any law enforcement agency because it inherently shows bias against parts of the community, could be based on race, sexual orientation, disability, you name it.
So how do agencies fix that? Is it just about better training or policies?
Well, training and policies address the symptoms, but the sources stress it's critical that the culture of the organization be addressed to fix the cause of the problem.
And culture starts at the top.
Absolutely. The top administrator and command staff create organizational culture. They set the tone.
Is there anything concrete agencies can do to change that culture?
One evidence-based approach mentioned is community outreach. Getting officers interacting positively with community members helps dismantle barriers and builds understanding on both sides.
Okay, but this brings up a tricky legal point. What about free speech? Don't officers, like other public employees, have First Amendment rights, even on social media?
They do, but it's complicated. The Supreme Court has drawn some lines. There's a key case, Pickering v. Board of Education from 1968.
Pickering, okay, what did that establish?
It set up a two-part test. First, is the employee's speech on a matter of public concern? Think like commenting on budget cuts affecting safety. If it's just a personal gripe, it's generally not protected.
And if it is a matter of public concern?
Then step 2 kicks in, balancing the employee's free speech rights against the government employer's interest in having an efficient, disruptive, free workplace.
So a balancing act. Did other cases refine this?
Yes. Connick v. Myers in 1983 reinforced that protection usually only applies to speech on public concerns, not internal office stuff. It also made it a bit easier for employers to show disruption.
Okay.
And then Garcetti v. Sabagos in 2006 added another crucial layer.
What was that?
It clarified that speech by a public official is only protected if they're speaking as a private citizen. If the speech is part of their official duties, it's not protected by the First Amendment in the same way.
Ah. So if writing a report is part of your job, you can be evaluated on that report, even though it's speech.
Precisely. Employers can manage performance related to job duties, even if those duties involve speaking or writing.
So what does this legal landscape mean for agencies trying to manage officers' social media use?
It means they need clear policies. The sources recommend social media policies, which prohibits employees from using social media, which violates agency policies and order laws.
And these policies need regular attention.
Yes, reviewed annually, enforced consistently, and they have to be tailored to individual departments and jurisdictions using these court cases as guides. Riverside, California PD is mentioned as having a model policy.
So the takeaway for you, listening, is that agencies promoting a positive culture and clear accountability are less likely to face these kinds of scandals.
Exactly, that protects public trust. It's this constant navigation between individual rights and the need for institutional integrity, especially when a single post can explode online.
Okay, so we've seen how this plays out locally, systemically in law enforcement. Let's broaden the lens even further now to the political arena. Because these issues of misconduct allegations, accountability, trust, they play out on a massive scale there.
Absolutely, often amplified hugely by media and social media. We have a few examples from our sources. Remember, we're just reporting what the sources allege here.
Right, impartiality is key. So what kind of things are we seeing?
Well, there was that incident with Joe Mastriani, the Republican candidate for NY State Assembly, allegedly caught stealing his Democratic opponent's political flyer from a person's mailbox.
Stealing mail, that sounds serious.
It sparked debate. Some called it a felony. Others questioned if it was technically in the mailbox or just tucked in the door. Maybe not mail tampering, but still, as one source put it, a shitty thing to do.
Did they confirm it was actual mail?
A voter apparently confirmed it showed up in her USPS informed delivery preview. It was also called petite larceny. But the reaction was strong talk of hypocrisy. It calls to, "Olo sick him you pee." A small incident, but telling.
And on a larger scale.
Our sources mention Matt Gaetz facing opposition for an attorney general nomination, partly due to ethics scandals and combative style.
Okay.
Allegations involving FEMA came up. A former supervisor accused the agency of bypassing Trump supporters during disaster relief operations.
Bypassing Trump supporters.
That was the accusation. It led to calls for transparency. Tennessee even launched a probe into claims FEMA discriminated against supporters of former President Trump during hurricane relief.
But there were conflicting reports.
Yes, other reports mentioned allegations that FEMA was actually prioritizing Trump supporters in Florida hurricane aid. So conflicting narratives even within the sources about FEMA's actions.
That's confusing. What else?
Security issues.
All right.
The Secret Service director had to resign after security breaches and failures around a Trump rally, even though there were prior warnings. House committees planned investigations.
And local politics, too. NYC Mayor Eric Adams.
Yes, he faces additional charges in ongoing legal proceedings linked to alleged bribery, according to the summaries we reviewed.
There was also mention of weaponized lawfare.
Right. One source covered attorney Harmeet Dillon's view that lawsuits against Donald Trump and conservative allies were politically motivated, framing the January 6th committee as a partisan effort.
And Trump's own claims about Jan 6th.
During a debate, he claimed he'd offered Nancy Pelosi 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, but she and the D.C. mayor turned them down, saying he had it in writing.
Okay, one more example.
J.D. Vance drew criticism for comments suggesting women without children are childless cat ladies who are miserable and shouldn't be in politics because they lack a direct stake in the country's future.
Wow. So across the board, from alleged flyer theft to FEMA operations to high-level security and political rhetoric, it just seems like a constant stream of questioned actions and statements.
It really does. And when you see so many instances where official actions, statements, alleged misconduct are all being questioned, it poses a huge challenge for the public.
Yeah, how do you, the listener, figure out who or what to believe? What does this constant questioning do to the stability of trust in leaders, in institutions overall?
So let's try to pull this all together. What have we seen in this deep dive?
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground, from that alleged love triangle in the Sullivan County Sheriff's Office and a candidate grabbing flyers
To the systemic problems with law enforcement officers' social media use and these really high-profile, often politically charged allegations against national figures.
And I think what really stands out is how fragile trust has become. In the past, maybe it eroded slowly. Now, an anonymous video, a controversial tweet, it can cause immense damage almost instantly.
Right. That Sullivan County case is like a microcosm. You have the official story, the counter story fueled by the video. The truth gets buried under the narratives before you can even dig it out.
Which puts an enormous burden on you, the citizen, to be incredibly critical of information.
And accountability, as our sources show, is just really complex. It's not just about having laws, it's about the culture inside organizations, the legal guardrails like the First Amendment rules for public employees.
And actually enforcing policies consistently, which seems to be a recurring issue.
Definitely. And the power of the narrative is undeniable in every single case we looked at. How the story is framed, especially online, massively shapes public perception and that core feeling of trust. Competing claims make it genuinely hard to know what happened.
So ultimately, it boils down to this. Whether we're talking about a local deputy, a federal agency, or a top politician, keeping public trust afloat seems to depend on transparency, clear communication.
And a real commitment to accountability no matter who is involved or what their politics are. That seems to be the bedrock.
So here's something to think about as we wrap up. Given this constant flood of information, these conflicting stories about alleged misconduct by people in positions of power,
What responsibility do you, as someone trying to stay informed, actually have? How deep do you need to dig to evaluate sources? And how actively should you demand accountability?
and maybe more importantly, how do you make sure you're not just consuming information, but truly understanding the complex games of narrative and power being played out every day?